Dear friends in Derby, it is a great privilege to be today with you, even if it's virtually. My name is Christian. I go by the pronouns he, him, his for those who don't know me. I am sort of partly responsible for a bit the beginning of this community that came as a result of another community I sort of also co-founded and I've been co-leading for the past 5 years, which began during the pandemic, an online queer Christian community. And um, well, during this time, when we began at the very beginning during the pandemic, I accidentally stumbled onto this passage of the woman that washed Jesus' feet. But given that while I was living with our community, I suddenly saw this passage with completely new eyes. So I would like to share a bit of my insights there and a little prayer that I wrote about, or from this woman's perspective, had she been alive today and been part of our community. So let's give a bit of context. Hold the word purity. In the Hebrew context, purity is very, very, very important. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, you would have heard multiple times saying, "Be holy because your God is holy." The nation of Israel was called to stay holy, clean um, from other nations because it was godly anointed. To understand purity, it's not only a matter of hygiene, which might be our first association in English, but purity is something about places or things in the right places. For example, mud in your garden is absolutely fine, and if you may want to plant something, it might be a great idea having some fresh soil. However, you don't want that soil on your carpet. Well, the same thing with blood. In the Hebrew mentality, blood in your body is absolutely fine. But the moment your blood gets out of your body, then that's when you become impure because it does not belong outside of the body. As you have already read on the first passage, there were some key points about birth. Women were in this society treated as inferior to men, and these began from the very beginning, from the very same birth. So a woman that had given birth had to remain was considered impure for 7 days, whereas if that was she had given birth to a boy, sorry, to a girl, she would remain impure for much, much longer. So there are some reports that it was quite common, actually, for young girls to be abandoned at birth. They would usually leave a basket outside of the city, outside of the walls of the city, and some of them they might be eaten by beasts, fortunately, but others would be collected or rescued by some people that were actually going around uh, the walls of the city to collect these babies. This comes with a trigger warning. Before you think that, well, what a great action these people were doing, rescuing abandoned babies, actually, most of them, and again, there are um, copious historical reports of these happening in several cultures in the Middle East during these years. Um, they would take these girls and turn them into slaves, most commonly into sex workers. The main character of our story was probably one of these girls that had been rescued and exploited since she was a kid into sex work. So a very important point. The Leviticus or Moses, sorry, the Old Testament did not condemn prostitution as such. The only prostitution that was, or hiring the services of a sex worker, the only issue that is mentioned is temple prostitution, which was a form of considered of idol worship. So in some of the pagan temples, there would be some women, sometimes some men, that would be some sort of priests. And as a part of the worship, men would pay their respect to the deity by having intercourse and hiring the services of these temple sex workers. But besides that, there was absolutely no issue for men to hire the services of a sex worker. So it would be absolutely normal for people working on the temple to do so. But of course, being a sex worker was dirty. Women, per se, had already a very limited access to the temple, which in the Hebrew mentality, especially after the exile, they believed that God resided in this temple. They believed that the sin of Israel was some sort of dirt that would get stuck into the temple. So, of course, being in contact with human fluids, having no known fathers, and being open to getting pregnant by multiple men was a complete no go for the Hebrews. And there's no wonder that they would be considered super, super impure. And if women had already very limited access, then they were absolutely not even allowed anywhere close by the temple. So, in a way, all the possibilities of accessing God or the divinity were pretty much none or very, very limited. So, here we've got this woman. Let's call her Miriam, just to give her a name. So, hardly anyone probably knew her name. They only knew what she does for a living, and it was just the whore of town. And there she is, Miriam, this morning, um, just waiting on the street, looking for some clients, and suddenly sees a lot of people getting into a circle. She hears a man with a Galilean accent, this guy's from the north, just saying some stuff about God. I mean, the only people talking about God she ever hears are these priests that are on the temple, but I mean, they are fine when they are her client, but of course they don't want to talk about that while she's at work. But now there's this Galilean man is not nothing like them. He's saying that soon people will be able to find God not in the temple, but that God is in each of us, that everybody will access God. And actually, those that were not allowed into the temple, the very least, will now be the first. They will the center of God's kingdom. This is crazy. I mean, how a hooker could be at the center of God's kingdom? I mean, I'm just so filthy. I cannot even get remotely close to the temple. How on earth? But I mean, as insane as it sounds, she decides to sit there. I mean, of course, from a distance because she's not allowed to get close to people. She's too impure. And this man, as he continues preaching, she's looking into her eyes, and it is the first time a man is treating her not like a sex object, but as a human being. There is something very strange about the way he speaks and looks at her that makes her feel valued. So she goes home. She's very emotional. She needs to cry. There's just way too many emotions. But at the same time, she feels this is her only chance ever in life. She needs to see this guy again. She hears that he's at one of her clients' homes. Huh. She's been around many times there, so she knows her way there. But she's so filthy, she's so impure. So she runs into her pimp's wardrobe and she makes a really expensive perfume. The one they're only allowed to use when someone really important is in town, like a governor or, yeah, someone that high. And just a couple of droplets and go and do the work. She makes the whole pot. She runs. When she gets into this room, it's really awkward. It's surrounded by men. Yeah, all these holy men. I mean, most of them are her clients, but you know, she knows that being there, they're gonna pull her out from her, but she wants to take the risk. They're gonna say, "What the hell are you doing?" But she still wants to see this Galilean. So let's make a small break. We read in the story that she's showing her hair and that is using this hair to wash Jesus' feet. If you are familiar with people from the Middle East, women very rarely show their hair because it's considered something obscene, something as obscene as doing topless in Western Europe. So imagine we were this really Puritan group of people, and suddenly a woman just wearing some really tight shorts and a bra walks into the room. We're already quite in shock. What the hell are you doing here? And then suddenly she removes her bra, speechless. Not only that, she goes and jumps into these leaders' feet. Jesus. She's using her hair and touching the feet and weeping and using this perfume. This scene is obscene to watch. It is very sexual. Beware that this woman has always been a sex worker. She's been exploited into this since she was a kid, and she doesn't know better. This is all she knew. And Jesus is aware of that. Jesus is not asking her to give up her lifestyle or anything like that. Doesn't even get into that. She simply also because he knows that she has no other choice. But rather than saying, "Oh, how disgusting! How filthy are you?" he's actually seeing this love of gesture in her. She understands that she's showing love and affection and showing this deep admiration for him the only way she could. And not only that, he's praising her for doing that. And the people in the room are completely freaked out. What? So after this scene, I I wrote a little prayer that she would have written when she got home and was reflecting on what just had happened. And it's also a prayer to all our queer and indecent people that um, try to follow Jesus in our own way and who might have been excluded by the big churches. Thank you, Lord, for making me unworthy of this table. For your love will find me in the hovel where we the indecent gather. Thank you, Lord, for not being holy enough to be allowed into the temple, but filthy enough to be able to seek you with other destitute and heretics. Thank you, Lord, for those who exclude us, because unintentionally they bring us to the center of your kingdom. It is here that among freaks, crooks, and people of bad reputation, you become present. You become one with the pain nobody cares about, and you invite us to a scandalous party. Thank you, Lord, for our uncomfortable bodies, which pollute any sanctuary by our sole presence, because you have set us an example by sharing and giving away your body for others. Thank you, Lord, for our totally unacceptable ways of feeling and expressing love. For it is thanks to this gift that we can understand the extravagance of your passion for us and find a part of you in those we love. Thank you, Lord, for being a nasty piece of work that everybody points to, because now I can follow you without caring about what they say or having to pretend to be anything else. Thank you very much, and God bless you.